Back at it, Football Friday, Sports Bet Betting Inside today. Paulie and Teddy SBR picks. I'm at Real Sports Bet on Twitter. He's at Teddy_covers. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. Friday means the NFL. We'll go rapid fire through 4 games. What a card. The late game, Rams and Saints. Sunday night game, Rodgers against Brady. Ravens try to sweep the Steelers, and we'll also get the good late games are fantastic. The Chargers, off the bye, take on the Seahawks on the road. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Beats. Hornets, 1.5 at home. Up 17 in the third quarter. Could not get the win against the Thunder. They lose. Tough one. They couldn't hang on to that lead. And Temple opened, 11 up to 13, back down. 11, 12, depends where you got the number, but we'll call it plus 10. They were down early. Central Florida comes back. Then they're up 9. Temple's driving, sack, knocked out of field goal range, and then a big, important field goal late as Central Florida wins by 12.
Yeah, I mean, in the NBA, certainly the Hornets ran into Russell Westbrook last night, blowing that lead, despite the fact Paul George 0 of 10 from three-point range in that ballgame. But Westbrook is one of those players that when he gets it in his head, we're going to win this game, and he's hitting his shots. He was as good as any player you can find in the NBA last night, single-handedly carrying OKC back against Charlotte after the Hornets blew that 17-point lead. As for Temple, they had 35 first downs. They had 670 yards. They moved the ball up and down the field all night until it mattered most when they got stopped on downs and they missed the 2-point conversion. And lo and behold, plus 10, plus 11, plus 12. They lost by a dozen. And really, there weren't many plus 12s out there. Tough beat if you had the Owls. They were a right side loser.
How about the under in the Devils Red Wings, which was 6, 1-1 in the third period, 5 goals, 2 of them in the final 43 seconds. The final one with 4 seconds left on the power play. 4-3 final. Bad for the books. NBA total moves continue to get there. Celtics Bucks over 216.5 to 220.5, 117 to 113. How good are the Bucks? The Celtics almost set the NBA record for most made threes in a game and were 21 of 40 at one point. And it's a 1-point game late.
Sure. So remember when Kansas City went up to New England? They didn't win the game, but at the end of that game, you're like, the Chiefs can stand toe-to-toe with anybody. That's what you got to feel about Milwaukee right now. Even though the Bucks didn't win that game last night, didn't cover the spread with them taking a fair bit of money. From a power rating standpoint, you can make an argument the Milwaukee Bucks should be ranked number 3 in the NBA right now, with only the Warriors and the Celtics ranked ahead of them.
You're supposed to lose that game by 20 when a team starts 21 of 40 from 3 and almost sets the record. They lose. They didn't play well in the first half. And Freak had a look at a 3 at the buzzer that would have come. They would have got the money. Blazers 4 up to 7.5. No Davis. 5th time in NBA history a team started 4-0 and then lost their next 4 games with the Pelicans, 132 to 119. Blazers get the money. Kings Hawks over 231 to 234. Kings have a winning streak going. Fox, youngest player in NBA history with a 30-point triple-double, 146 to 115. Nuggets under again. Every game but one has gone under. 226.5 to 218, 110 to 91. Ran out the Cavs.
Sure, and as you mentioned, the markets continue to get these early season NBA totals moved right. Celtics reign in threes. That game flies over. Kings Hawks. That game flies over. Denver under again. Bang. Money in the bank. And, of course, there's not much the bookmakers can do when you have a situation like you had with Anthony Davis last night where, okay, they could shade the line initially. Davis played 41 minutes in Golden State. If you handicap the game early, you could say maybe he's going to be on reduced minutes. Maybe he doesn't play at all. But the books can't make a significant adjustment on side or total based on maybe. They got to know. By the time they knew, the markets went nuts, and all that money went to the bettors. No AD, big problem for New Orleans as they fall short by 13, and the Blazers went on a nice fourth-quarter run to take control of that ballgame.
Quarterback injury against Toledo, but we got to fade Western Michigan. Ohio was +2, went off a 3.5-point favorite, routed Western Michigan on the road 59 to 14. And what do you do with your power ratings now? Raiders Niners under 47.5 to 44, 34-3 final. They're right there as the worst team in the league. They go to Arizona coming up. Mullins never taken a snap before, lights them up, and the Raiders they're lucky they got that big break with that horrible spot in the Browns game, or they wouldn't have a win. They haven't played the Chiefs yet either. What's that point spread in Kansas City?
Oh, it's going to be pretty ugly. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't had Oakland ranked near the bottom, or San Francisco for that matter, but Oakland in particular as one of the 3 or 4 worst teams. I've had the Bills worse than them all year. I've had Arizona worse than them all year, and I've had San Fran worse than them since Garoppolo got hurt, I believe. But obviously last night on the short week, Gruden didn't have his team ready. And it's so funny. Every week, whoever's facing the Oakland Raiders defensive front, they're like, wow, that offensive line's starting to figure it out. Oh, wow, they're putting it together for the first time all year. We saw it with Indy last week. We're like, oh, yeah, look at that Colts offensive line. They're getting, no. The Raiders defensive front, the Raiders defense is as weak as it gets. It showed again where you're making Nick Mullins look like the second coming of Joe Montana. John Gruden, well, he's getting some headlines in Oakland. We'll give him that. But the bottom line is bettors got the total right in that game. They did not get the side right, Paul. A whole lot of money came for the Oakland Raiders. And no, Oakland was not a right side on Thursday night.
That's a bad bet. And they absolutely quit on Gruden last night. San Francisco players said that too. They packed it in early. Well, look ahead line at the Westgate. The Raiders were +4. They went off the favorite and routed. Northern Illinois, Akron under 38 down to 37. How about a 37 total in a college game with no weather? 36-26 final in that one. And OKC over 227 to 230.5, 111 to 107. All right, here we go. Ravens and Steelers. Ravens won at Pittsburgh on that Sunday night game and actually won the game twice. Blew a big lead and then came back and blowing an early lead, came back in the second half and took it to the Steelers. Connor's doing a good job. They're doing an excellent job with this Bell distraction. They don't want to hear it. They want to be asked about him. When he shows up, he shows up. Ravens are down to 2.5 and 47.5 at home. And all of a sudden here, the Ravens are 500 and the defense has had issues. It's one thing for Breeze to light you up and you lose that game at home when Tucker mixed the extra point. The Panthers did whatever they wanted last week.
They sure did. And this is a Ravens defense that has some impressive stats. And the betting markets continue to look at the season-long stats for Baltimore and say, this defense is top-notch. We know this is what the Ravens do. This is who the Ravens are. They're a defense-first ball club. They do lead the league in sacks. Their pass rush has been devastating. Their secondary, not so much. Torched in back-to-back losses, 1-4 in their last 5 ball games. And they're laying points against a Steelers team in revenge. Now, one good move for Baltimore, and I think it's a real good move. Their running game has been, let's call it pedestrian at best. Alex Collins is not breaking away for many downfield runs. The addition of Ty Montgomery, and I know we had to get out of Green Bay and all the issues that happened last weekend with him costing the Packers the game. All right, they got him out of town. Benefit for Baltimore. Couldn't find a pic of Montgomery in a Ravens uniform yet. But the bottom line is he's someone who could have an impact for Baltimore in this ballgame. If the Ravens are going to win, they got to get pressure on Big Ben, and they have to keep James Conner off the field. Conner, 526 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns the last 3 games alone.
Also, that first game, Smith wasn't there for the Ravens, and he's done a great job in his career on Brown. Brown didn't go crazy, though, and they still got the win. Big spot here for the Ravens. You can kiss the division goodbye if you lose. You go into the bye week, then you come out, you play Cincinnati. It's actually a manageable schedule the rest of the way. Pre-bye week for the Ravens, as I mentioned, 2-4 straight up, 1-4 and 1 ATS last 6, and 6-3 overrun as well, allowing 25 points per game.
Yeah, and this is a Baltimore offense. We talked about the defense has been slapped around. They haven't scored more than 23 points in their last 4 games. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley got hurt last week. Don't know what his status is yet. And at 4-4, Baltimore feels like a pretty average team right now. A team whose stats may be better than the team that we're actually seeing on the field. Pittsburgh in revenge. And, that Steelers offense, it's moving the football now every single week. I can understand why the money has come in on Pittsburgh, taking this down from a field goal off the key number of 3 down to Baltimore -2.5. I don't disagree with that move.
Let's get to the late games. Good games. Chargers hit the road to take on Seattle. Seattle's 148 the total. That total's too high. Here we go again. Rivers, 36 years old, probably the most underrated quarterback in NFL history. 17-3 touchdown interception ratio. They're having a great season as well as the Chargers have this winning streak going. The Chargers are off the bye. Football Outsiders has Seattle a top 5 defense. Can you believe it? Wilson's putting up big numbers again. They had the big road win in Detroit. And how about that? I can't believe it. The offensive line's playing well. The running game's been fantastic with Davis and Carson, and they're giving Wilson time to throw. We thought maybe it was a fluke that they gave the Rams a battle and almost beat them at home. Seattle, after getting off to that 0-2 start, turning around could be a playoff team.
Sure, and remember, the 0-2 start was a couple of coin flip games, and the Seahawks came up on the wrong end in the fourth quarter of each of those two contests. If they'd have won those games, even one of them, we'd be talking about Seattle. Wow, look at the Seahawks, likely playoff team. This is a huge game for Seattle, a bigger game for Seattle than it is for LA, who's in pretty comfortable position in that AFC West right now. When you talked about that Seahawks defense, they got KJ Wright back from injury, and lo and behold, difference maker. I mean, we talked about all the losses from the Legion of Boom. The secondary's gone. Not the front seven, though. You talk about FBO has them Football Outsiders, the top 5 defense. You know, my numbers have them top quartile, top 25% of the NFL in points allowed. Obviously, everyone's number shows that. Top 25% in yards allowed. Great numbers, yards per play. With Wright back on the field, that defense has been tough. But the Chargers are no joke, especially with Melvin Gordon coming back from injury. Let's not forget LA with extra time to prepare coming off the bye. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in the Anthony Lynn era? I don't know, but I'll say this much. Joey Bosa's not coming back this week. There were some concerns that he was. But when you talk about special teams, which is something that handicappers don't usually focus on, Chargers still missing kicks. Punting game's not great. Seahawks making kicks. Punting game has been tremendous again this season. If it comes down to special teams, big advantage for Seattle.
Yeah, that is big. No doubt about it. And Big Dick Dixon. They called it's what he tweeted after that big fake punt that went their way, too. He's excellent. They hope to have Gordon back. He was limited in practice Thursday. We tape early Friday. That's something to follow as well. Remember, he hurt the hammy that Friday before the game in London. Post-bye week for the Chargers. 3-7 ATS last 10, but won both of their last 2 on the road and 9-3 under in the last 12. Hell of a game. What a matchup that is. And speaking of great matchups, stay with the late games. Doesn't get any better than this. The Rams against the Saints, two top 5 offenses, 2 teams top 5 in passing offenses. But let's look at this now. That Kupp should be back for the Rams. Cause for concern with both teams here. The Rams defense has struggled lately, especially Peters. They're going after Peters. Rodgers was hunting him on Sunday. And you figure Peters to be on Thomas in the game Sunday. But what has happened? Hey, 6 in a row. And 5 in a row ATS. Great job. Although you tell me they win the game on the road and Breeze throws for 120 yards, I would have been shocked as they forced some turnovers to pick 6 and Thielen fumbled going in. What has happened to the Saints defense? The stats are horrible.
Yeah, they sure are. We're looking at New Orleans. And no, against the run, their defensive numbers are actually pretty darn good. Just yards per carry, I think they're the best defense in the NFL. However, they've given up 6.1 yards per play for the season. That's tied for 26th in the NFL. This is New Orleans. And against the pass, they've allowed opposing QBs to have a QB rating of 111.5 against them. Those are Raiders-type numbers. That's number 30 in the NFL. And when we look at the defensive disparity between these two teams, there's a reason that the Saints have taken, that the Rams, I should say, have taken all this money. New Orleans was the favorite. Now the Rams are the favorite, and that hasn't stopped. Your graphic says 1. I'm starting to see 1.5s and even 2s popping up on my live odds screen right now. There is heavy money coming in on LA, even though this is a Saints team that's built up a huge betting bandwagon over the last month. Paulie, total-wise, certainly we've seen this number get bet down in early betting action on Friday. Again, this was 60 when I woke up this morning. Now we're looking at as low as 58.5 in some spots. Totals 60 or higher. They face major resistance from wise guy bettors. I've never seen an NFL total above 58 get steamed up. They only get steamed down. If you like the over, no rush. You don't want to necessarily wait till 5 minutes for a kickoff, but at some point this weekend, the wise guys are going to hit this. and keep this total and make it even lower than it is right now at 60/59.5.
They got to stop doing that. It's a different sport. It's not 1995. Look at the New England Kansas City game and get ready in a couple of weeks because the Westgate put out a 64 for the Monday night game with the Rams and the Chiefs. I don't know where the stops are coming from. You tell me. The Rams struggle to stop the run. The Saints have all these issues on defense. 30th in opposing QB rating allowed, 26th in yards per play allowed. You got to. How are you going to slow down Gurley? Cup's coming back. Cooks can hit you deep, and I don't know. And the Rams all of a sudden can't stop a nosebleed either. So you figure the Saints will move the ball at home as well. I can't make a case for the under. No way, no how. Which hopefully is a preview of the NFC title game.
Sure, but you say they've got to stop betting this. They have their 20-year, and we're talking about they meaning wise guy bettors. They've got, the long-term database and the sample size that they're comfortable with.
There's no rules, though. You got to throw it out. There's no rules. You can't. Come on.
You're preaching to the choir. I'm not betting these games under, but I'm happy that there are elements in the markets that are knee-jerk reacting to these. We're making big bets the other way when I want overs. The wise guy bettors are keeping these totals in range that guys like you and I, guys like our viewers, can bet some overs with reasonable value.
All right, Sunday night, great matchup. Rodgers against Brady. Patriots and Packers are taking some money here. Can you believe it? Pats down to 5.5, 5 at home. Check the status of Gronk in this one. It's a coaching mismatch. Doesn't get any bigger than this. McCarthy against Rodgers. Plus, I'm concerned about the travel. Going from Los Angeles, West Coast to East Coast. Green Bay was thumped in D.C. Green Bay was thumped in Detroit. And now it was actually a home game, though. I know they played in Los Angeles, but at one point, Rodgers is telling the crowd to make noise when the Rams have the ball. It was crazy as the Packer fans took over in Los Angeles this past week. And now can they go out and do it again? I was surprised with their pass rush, and they did a fairly good job on defense until the second half as well. But you trade Dix. How does that play in the locker room where the Packers make a trade instead of acquiring some people? Montgomery had to go. We agree on that. But here they come. Patriots on the winning streak. Belichick can say we didn't play well on Monday. I'm concerned about the spot and certainly a coaching mismatch. It's the first time Rodgers plays Brady in New England.
Yeah, a lot of fun for this one. And we're certainly seeing the market respect for the Packers. Some of that has to do with the fact that even in defeat last week, Green Bay outgained the Rams 6.9 yards per play to 5.5. And the markets, again, they're going to look at the stats and say, oh, you regrade the game. The Packers should have won. They outgained them by 1.4 yards per play against the undefeated best team in the NFL. So that is an element of market respect. Second element of market respect here for Green Bay is the fact that, they dumped Ty Montgomery, who was going to be an issue in the locker room. He had to go, and he did. And they're like, all right, well, we got him out of town. I don't know if the Clinton-Dix trade was quite so welcome in that locker room, but certainly the trade of Montgomery had to happen. He had to be cleared out of that locker room, and he was. So that's a positive sign. The third issue here, why this point spread is as short as it is and why we're seeing Packer money, Brady versus the Bills, 45 passes, no touchdowns after 4 straight games of 38+ against mostly lesser defensive competition. Packers defense played fairly well last week. There are a lot of concerns about New England defensively. I know they shut down Buffalo. That was no big deal. But Patriots defense against the better offenses they faced, including Kansas City on this field just a few weeks ago, has not been good. Hence the market's support for Green Bay, despite the fact, as you mentioned, you got McCarthy and Rodgers on one side, and then you have some guy named Belichick and Brady on the other side. That is a coach QB combination that's worked for a long, long time, Paulie.
You have to be livid if you're a Packer fan. Rodgers is 34 years old. You had over a 20-year run with Favre and Rodgers, and you have 2 Super Bowls. That's all you have to show for. That's embarrassing. And that roster's terrible. Okay, and how they run this organization's terrible. It's Aaron Rodgers carrying this team every year, and it seems like it's the 4th, 5th straight year we're talking about it with a lousy head coach that he can't stand as well. And they, Parcells, you are what your record says you are. They're 3-3-1, and the Patriots are on a roll. Money time, play of the day. Back to the Chargers and the Seahawks. I said the total's too high. Take it away, Teddy. A 9-3 under-run last 12 for the Chargers.
Sure. Betting number 467, 468. Let's take the Seahawks and the Chargers under the total. It's already down from 48 to 47.5 this morning. Don't sleep in on this one. Do it now. Seahawks Chargers under 47.5. That's our play of the day.
All right, we get Alabama, LSU. You get Saints, Rams, Brady against Rodgers. We'll recap everything. There'll be upsets. We'll run it all down. Tuesday, college basketball starts. You got to be kidding me. We got a great doubleheader on ESPN as well. Low Shack in the bag up next. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. You've been watching Sportsbet, Betting Insight today, SBR Picks. Have a good weekend. Take care. Thanks for watching.